Hi everyone, it's Natalie here with day 7 of the self-compassion with tarot challenge. Uh, I think it's actually day 8, and it's been for like I think all everybody kind of gets why it's been hard to keep up with the videos, even though I've kept up with the practice. I think I only missed one day, and then I'm making it up. So. Um, Yeah, it's been intense. It's been really intense and really wonderful. I think more than anything, I'm just in a state of complete gratitude and just awe over, um, really over how much presence and support and kindness and care and shared compassion that there has been from the overall community around my grief process with the rats, which I'm still going through. When you really open yourself to grief, it will just arise. It will spontaneously arise. I tend to think of emotions as being a function of the body. They arise, their emotions, they move, right? So they come through the body and out. And when they do, they're alchemical in nature. They really transform us, and they can transform our thinking, and our perceptions, and our understanding of everything around us. So thank you. I think really what I want to say is thank you, because having so many people present for that process has been more deeply transformative than I really would ever have anticipated, and I'm really grateful. I feel like deeply like you guys had a lot to do with how that shaped itself, because when there's presence brought to something, we know right from physics now and from science that simply having attention to something or paying attention to something has the impact of changing it. And I feel like having the presence of so many people who have been so incredibly supportive and kind and gentle towards me and towards that process has been genuinely transformative. It couldn't stay stagnant. It couldn't, get locked up. It held me to account. And all of you were a part of that. And that's, it's just humbling. It's really profoundly humbling. So I just did my day 7 card just as a means of like wrapping up the whole practice. I asked, what would you like me to know on day 7 of this self-compassion practice? And I was working with the Bone Stone and Earth Flesh Tarot again. I don't know why the camera keeps doing that. I think it's because of the proximity to the camera. Maybe if I move it closer, it won't do it as much. So we're getting real intent here, or real intimate. That's what I wanted to say. It's like, yeah, woo! I'm right here. So the card I pulled today is the 9 of Wands, and I thought, what? I don't know where to go with that. And so, because those moments hit me a lot when I'm reading for myself, right? Which is why guidebooks exist, among many other reasons why guidebooks they do. When I read the narrative here about this card, it really blew me away. And I think in order to really give it full impact of like how amazing it is, I kind of have to go back to tell you about how yesterday worked out with just communicating with my family over like, not doing the drama kind of thing. So in short, it worked out more beautifully than I could have ever anticipated, which really surprised me in ways that I did not expect. So I went I got up yesterday morning and was just kind of determined, like, I'm not doing the drama. I'm not doing the stuff. I'm just not interested in it. And I need to figure out how to communicate that, how to work with it, how to get beyond it. And so that I can help my mom and dad with cleaning out their house. That's essentially what we're doing. They're thinking they might potentially want to move. They definitely don't want my sister and I stuck cleaning out this enormous house that my mom and dad built back in the 80s. In the event that one of them would die suddenly, they don't want us stuck like for months having to clean so much stuff. So the point is to get to like areas of the house where there's just crap stashed. A lot of it, like a lot of it's mine. A lot of it's mine. And I need to go through a lot of that stuff. A lot of it has nothing to do with me, but they need our help. And so basically, like there's been a pattern in place for several years now whereby, as I mentioned yesterday, you know, my sibling doesn't, it's my sister. I only have one sister. But she, you know, she's under a lot of stress. She has an excruciatingly stressful job as a teacher. And I realized yesterday, you know, the only way to, because my mom just crumbled when I told her, like, I'm not sure if I can get there. I don't know, how this is going to work, but I will contribute. I'll figure out how to do that. I'm just going to work that out. And I need your help to do that. She was really clear with me about it, just expressing her concerns over, you know, various aspects that are planned already and how those would be able to take place without the additional help and support and brute force and labor, physical labor. And so I realized, like, this is not her problem. This isn't maybe even my sister's problem. This is my problem. And I need to figure out how I'm going to deal with it and what's best. And I realized when I got off the phone with her, the only thing to do was find a way to communicate with my sister and just break down the wall of not communicating. You know, it's usually what happens is that she starts to stuff her emotions from about after her birthday onward. She has she has a tendency to break down a lot around her birthday and feeling like unloved and not like, you know, there's enough love and support for her around her birthday. There's good reason for that. It's not her just being dramatic. Really good reason for that. Then there is, you know, these are all family dynamics and things that are like long-term patterns that have been in place for a long time. And I don't judge them anymore so much now as I just am aware that they're there, and I really do my best not to become ensnared in them. The pandemic did a lot to heal our family in some really strange ways, but in some really necessary ways. But when I could see the pattern starting in March again and getting to like early April and perpetuating where I don't get returned phone calls, and suddenly I'm hearing things like about concerns that have come up about my livelihood, my well-being, etc. I thought, oh no, we're not doing this again. Because that's how it starts, kind of, as the best way to describe it is like concern trolling. So, which she doesn't do any other time of the year. It doesn't happen at any other time of the year in this way. So, you know, the best way to do it is to intervene, but to do so in a way, I realized yesterday, that is as compassionate towards self as possible. And in realizing like what would be, or, you know, trying to recognize what would be the most self-compassionate way to approach this situation. Because part of me wanted to be like, oh yeah, well, I hold this against you, and I hold this against you, and I hold this against you. So take all of that stuff that you're holding against me and shove it. because I don't want to hear it, and I don't want to deal with you, and you're being unreasonable, and I don't want to hear you accuse me of being unreasonable ever again when I've never been unreasonable, all of this stuff. All of this stuff. And I could feel my blood. It's not happening right now, by the way, but I could at the time, I could feel my blood pressure rising, and I could literally feel the tightness and the squeezing, starting to happen around my heart space. And I hate that. I know that that's the way the heart really armors itself, which is ironic because it doesn't fix anything. If anything, as you get older, it has the potential to give you a heart attack or a stroke. I mean, it's dangerous. Toxic emotion it's called toxic for a reason. It's not just experiential, it really messes with your body. So as I was recognizing that happening experientially, I just thought, okay, so first I'm going to sit down and literally just put my hand on my heart, and I breathed for a while, and then recognize the best thing to do here is just nip this in the bud. I'm going to go over. She's out of school. I'm not going to be at work today. I'm going to call, and I'm just going to ask if I can come over. And I did. And she was so happy that I wanted to come over. So I got in the car and I thought, okay, now what do I do? And I realized, self-compassion doggy time. Here we go. Okay. Got a lot of breath there. So, and I don't remember where I was, but I think I was saying basically, I called my sister, went over to see her. In the car on the way, again, I just stayed present, and I stayed in my practice, chanted, did some mantras on the way that really are good at putting me back in my heart space. And I really recognized self-compassion and compassion for someone else are often completely intertwined. So because I've spent a lot of years working on this, right? I mean, when I say a lot of years, 10 years in therapy combined with meditation practice, and then literally living with my mom and dad, and having to negotiate a sibling relationship where, we're all living in the same area and we're all seeing a lot of each other. How do I practice without having to completely isolate, distance myself from them in order to be who I am and whatnot? Because it's very hard for families of origin, we know this, right? To really accept us for who we are right now. So it was a lot. It was kind of intense over that time, and it remains that way. But something that happened yesterday that was tremendous, which is I recognized, first of all, that going into that circumstance from this may seem very obvious, right? But it isn't always when you're exhausted from 10 years of working on something with your family where you're like, okay, but can I just see this from her perspective? Where is she coming from right now before I walk in the door? And spending that time, thinking that one through and recognizing everything that she's been through in the last few days, which is really a lot, actually. When I think about it, she also had an incredibly emotional and intense week for completely different reasons, to do with something is completely outside of the realm of anything I have any right to talk about. But in seeing that, I thought, I could just be a bigger person than this, and I could just simply come in from a place of, hi, I love you. Are you okay? Are you doing okay? I hear that you've had a really hard week. Mom told me that this and this and this happened. And so that's what I did. And she greeted me, so I got to go back. I keep interrupting myself. You see how that works? So I went in from that place, and chose to do that and stay abreast of needing to be really assertive in moments about how do I feel and what's something that's come up over the last few weeks that left me concerned, but without making it weighted and heavy. And while still trusting all of the work that we've done, all of the rest of the year when the pattern is not arising and our relationship is really loving and supportive and reflective of the work that we both put into it, right? So, because that has been a thing, right? So not people pleasing and not like rolling over and being codependent and becoming ensnared in an enmeshed pattern and all of that, but just coming back to the place of observer, staying present here and offering presence as well. Because when you're present here, offering presence is not hard. It becomes really, really simple and easy to do. So, and it even reinforces your own personal boundaries, right? So that's what I did. And she was so happy and so touched that I, on a spontaneous day off that wasn't intended or it wasn't going to happen initially, it just became the way things went, that I chose to call her first thing in the morning and say, hey, what are you doing? And can I come see you? And we spent the day together, actually. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what she's been dealing with over the last few months. And I had a chance to watch, some of the work that she'd done through quarantine with kids that had to be like music curriculum that's completely different from anything they would ordinarily ever work on. And she'd made this beautiful compilation video that I could sit and watch with her, where she could just see me respond to the work that she put in. That was really beautiful. It gave her a chance to sit with me and ask me how I was doing after the loss of the rats, so that I could really receive her empathy and support and compassion. And then, after a couple of hours of just that exchange and that loving gentleness with one another, the edge that had been there in her voice started to come off completely and just relax. And it became clear to me too, like how many ways in which she's changed over the last year. And so while that pattern is coming up, it maybe wasn't coming up nearly as badly as I had thought it was, right? So my own ideas, my own mind, my own ingrained pattern and expectations of what is or isn't happening was also at play. And so I could really see that with greater clarity and kind of just laugh at it because okay, yeah, that's been the expectation. And what if it's not true? What if there's something else there? But I think, I would never have known that if I hadn't been willing to say, okay, who else or what else is there? Now, this doesn't mean that the pattern won't come up over the next several days while we're trying to get all this other stuff done, because there's so much emotional weight to it. But knowing that I have that bond with her and that space, and that we've cleared so many things out between us over the last, over the several hours yesterday, really leaves me in a really healthy space to go into that work with my family next week. And in a much more collaborative, team oriented, way, while still being just very gentle and aware. So, what a journey, and I've written in the comments to Jen about this, but Jen, you couldn't have done this at a better time. This really couldn't have been a better time to assign this challenge, and I'm so glad I accepted it because I think it made getting through the last week just that much better and more healthy. So what did my card say that was so shocking? So here's the card. And what it said. So it's the Nine of Wands. It's the green woman. So the essence of the card, okay, defiance, dedication, camouflage, stealth, resolve, inner strength, flexibility, adaptability, determination, patience, efficiency, discovery, resilience, spirit, obstinance, refusal to compromise, indefensible, exhaustion, depleted, compromise, demand, strength of character, awareness, habit. So all of the things that I was bringing into that conversation yesterday from a shadow place, and it was like the way and yesterday would have been day 7, and all of the ways that I worked with that energy in order to transform it before walking through the door, so that it could become inner strength, flexibility, adaptability, patience, resilience, spirit, all of those things. Yeah. And also then she talks about, the stories that Avalon writes about each of the characters in these cards is beautiful. But what she writes in her reading, she says, when the Nine of Wands appears in your reading, it may suggest it's time to take a defensive stance on a tense situation. You may be urged to focus carefully, ensuring that you do not waste your energy unnecessarily, because the unfolding situation may take time. And it did. It took about 5 hours, maybe 6. 5, probably about 5. This is a card, and it may take days, right? Next week. This is a card of great inner strength, of a strong spirit, and of a profound sincerity. This is the card of the divinely guided. Adaptability is yet another key aspect of this card. You may find that you are urged to think on your feet and modify your approach constantly, which is really where I was yesterday. This may be a challenge to begin with, but you will find a sense of ease over time. It may even become second nature. There is as much patience in this card as there is action. It is the card of a measured approach. There's a lot of dedication and strength of character when we choose to dedicate ourselves to a cause. Endurance is yet another important attribute to cultivate when the Nine of Wands appears in your reading. So that was amazing. The way that the cards this week too have played out with each day, with every single reading, has been so accurate and so precise and remarkable. So yeah, I think that I find that so humbling. Is that just me? I find that really, I'm always completely knocked on my ass when that happens in a way that's really good, right? It's that sort of like, whoa. I never doubt anymore that I'm not alone. I never doubt that I'm not being held by spirit, and by all of the guardians and guides and Buddhas and beings that I work with. I never doubt it, but yet I'm perpetually in awe of the ways in which it gets expressed and the ways in which it comes up, right? Really deeply in awe of it. So, and I've been in awe of all of you guys as well. I spent a couple hours this morning going through comments and just, again, rereading and taking them in and then responding. And it was profound. It was really profound. So thank you all deeply from the bottom of my heart. I've met new people. I've engaged with people that I didn't know as well and now know better. And it's opening the door to all sorts of possibilities. So yeah. Thank you so much, Jen, and to all of you. Again, just sending you tons and tons of love. I feel like I'm going to take this into a further practice of something. I don't know how it's going to manifest yet, but I feel like I really want to stay with this and stay with this discovery because it's so transformative. And I think I'm really going to need it next week. So maybe I'll have to do like an end of week check-in or something about it. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, tons of love to you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.